Give me 1 second. So today we are broadcasting from the temple room. And we're going to start chanting Caritamrta in a second. Just got everything set up. Hello, everybody. We got 14 people on so far. So I think we're ready to go. All right, first we're going to chant Jai Radhamadava, and we're going to use the guitar. And so that we have a camera in here. Don't bring me the guitar. Leave it. So let's see. Okay. Just want to make sure the camera follows me. Hey, camera. Okay, good. Oh, wait a second. Let's see, that should be on now. Anyway. Oh, camera can't go all the way around. That's the problem. Okay. You follow me now? Okay, good. Okay, so here we are in the temple room, and we're going to play Jai Radhamadava for you and for the deities. Everybody, you can see me. And let me swivel the camera around so I can get in front of the deities. Okay, that gives me enough. Okay, follows me. Okay, right in front of Radha Lokananda. And I have a wireless mic so they can hear me. Of course, you can't see the deities on camera, but this is life. Actually, I can get closer. Let's see if this works. I want to do zoom. You've got to zoom up. No, zoom feature is not working. There we go. Anyway. Jaya Radha Madhova, Jaya Kunja Vihare, Jaya Radha Madhova, Jaya Kunja Vihare, Gopi Jana Madhava, Jaya Kiparade, Girivarajade. Vijana Palama Jaya Girivarudave Jaya Girivarudave Yasoda Nandana Jaya Kachajana Ranjana Yasoda Nandana Prajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Panachari Kunja Vihare Jaya Kunja Vihare Yamuna Tira Panachari Kunja Vihare Jaya Kunja Vihare Jaya Radha Madhava, Jaya Kunja Vihare, Jaya Radha Madhava, Jaya Kunja Vihare, Gopi Jana Pallava, Jaya Girivarudhare, Girivarudhare. Vijana Palapa Jaya Girivarudhare Girivarudhare Yasodhanandana Jaya Prajanarandana Yasodhanandana Jaya Prajanarandana Yamuna Tira Manacharena Kunjabiyadena Kunjabiyadena Yamuna Tira Panacharena Kunjabiyadena Jaya Kunjabiyadena Jaya Randa Madhova Jaya Kunja Vihare Jaya Randa Madhava Jaya Kunja Vihare Jaya Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Parvadakacharya also Teta Satashi Shimad His Divine Grace Abhaya Chanananda Bhaktivedanta Goswami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai ISKCON Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Anantakoti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Param Se Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadha, Shri Vasadi Gaur, Bhakta, Vrindi Ki Jai, Shri Radhakrishna, Gopi Gopinath, Shyam Kunda, Radhakunda, Giri Govardhan Ki Jai, Vrindavanam Ki Jai, Mathuram Ki Jai, Jagannath Swami Ki Jai, Yamunamai Ki Jai, Shrimati Tulsi Devi Ki Jai, Samaveda Bhakta, Vrindi Ki Jai, Gaur, Premananda, Hari Hari Gaur. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Gauranga Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Haribol. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Pristaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swamini Namane. Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pacharani. Nivashesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Jayajatarni. So I'm giving class today from our temple room. This is the big Sunday feast, the virtual Sunday feast, in which everyone gets virtual prasadam. So we're going to speak again. So Om Gana Timidanda Shah Gananjana Shlakaya Chakshuram Meditam Yena Tasmai Shigurave Namaha. I offer my respectful obeisances unto the lotus feet of my spiritual master, His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, who so kindly opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge while I was blinded in the darkness of ignorance. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. So we're continuing with our study of the Sri Caitanya Caritamrta. What's that? Can I get the book? A book? Yeah, sure. You have the book? I mean, it should be up there. It'll be up there too. Oh, you like to see from the book? I'm not sure if that's the same section. We're doing from the Adi Lila chapter 9 today. That's what they're reading in the temple. So anyway, we're reading from Adi Lila chapter 9 of the Sri Caitanya Caritamrta from Nugaloka Temple Room. Let me turn down the light a little bit. Better colors, so I look half decent. There we go. Okay, so Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. So we're going to share the screen right now, so you can all see the Caitanya Caritamrta. We're in the Adi Lila chapter 9, text 42 in the Sri Caitanya Caritamrta. Just let me fix everything here so we can see. Take 1 second. So I Let's see if a participant raises their hand. And I can see if it saves me time. See if I can send, someone sends me a message in the middle. Okay, let's start. Etavas janma sapalyam dehinam ihateshu pranayaratar diyavacha shreya acharanam sada. This is a beautiful verse about everyone's responsibility. It is the duty of every living being to perform welfare activities for the benefit of others with his life, wealth, intelligence, and words. So Prabhupada explains here that there are two kinds of general activities: shreyas, or activities which are ultimately beneficial and auspicious, and prayas, or those which are immediately beneficial and auspicious. For example, children are fond of playing. They do not want to go to school to receive an education, and they think that to play all day and night and enjoy with their friends is the aim of life. Even in the transcendental life of Lord Krishna, we find that when he was a child, he was very fond of playing with his friends of the same age, the cowherd boys. He would not even go home to take his dinner. Mother Yashoda would have to come out to induce him to come home. Thus, it is a child's nature to engage all day and night in playing, not caring even for his health and other important concerns. This is an example of prayas, or immediately beneficial activities. But there are also shreyas, or activities which are ultimately auspicious. According to Vedic civilization, a human being must be God conscious. He should understand what God is and what this material world is, who he is, and what their relationships are. This is called shreyas, or ultimately auspicious activity. In this verse of Srimad Bhagavatam, it is said that one should be interested in shreyas. To achieve the ultimate goal of shreyas, or good fortune, one should engage everything, including his life, wealth, and words, not only for himself, but for others also. However, unless one is interested in shreyas in his own life, he cannot preach shreyas for the benefit of others. This verse, cited by Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu, applies to human beings, not to animals. As indicated in the previous verse by the words, Manusha Janma. These injunctions are for human beings. Of course, Manusha Janma means born as a birth as a human being. Unfortunately, human beings, although they have the bodies of men, are becoming less than animals in their behavior. This is the fault of modern education. Modern educators do not know the aim of life. They are simply concerned with how to develop the economic condition of their countries or of human society. This is also necessary. The Vedic civilization considers all aspects of human life, including dharma, religion, artha, economic development, kama, sense gratification, and moksha, liberation. But humanity's first concern should be religion. To be religious, one must abide by the orders of God, but unfortunately, people in this age have rejected religion, and they are busy in economic development. Therefore, they will adopt any means to get money. For economic development, one does not need to get money by hook or by crook. One needs only sufficient money to maintain his body and soul. However, because modern economic development is going on with no religious background, people have become lusty, greedy, and mad after money. They are simply developing the qualities of rajas, passion, and tamas, ignorance, neglecting the other quality of nature, sattva, goodness, and the Brahminical qualifications. Therefore, the entire society is in chaos. The Bhagavatam says that it is the duty of an advanced human being to act in such a way as to facilitate human society's attainment of the ultimate goal of life. There is a similar verse in the Vishnu Purana, part 3, chapter 12, verse 45, which is next quoted in the Caitanya Charitamrta. So these are two important terms, shreyas and prayas. And Prabhupada said that the prayas, or the temporary benefit, shouldn't be neglected. Vedic society allows one to fulfill their needs and get what they want in terms of actually not over consuming, but just actually what they need. And then it focuses one on the ultimate goal of life, which is Shreyas. So it's very important to have a balanced life like that. Praninam upakaraya yaddeveha paratracha karmanam manasavacha tadeva matimam bhajet. By his work, thoughts, and words, an intelligent man must perform actions which will be beneficial for all living entities in this life and the next. So purport, unfortunately, people in general do not know what is to take place in the next life. To prepare oneself for his next life is common sense, and it is the principle of the Vedic civilization, but presently people throughout the world do not believe in a next life. Even influential professors and other educators say that as soon as the body is finished, everything is finished. This atheistic philosophy is killing human civilization. People are irresponsibly performing all sorts of sinful activities, and thus the privilege of human life is being taken away by the educational propaganda of the so-called leaders. Actually, it is a fact that this life is meant for preparation for the next life. By evolution, one has come through many species or forms, and this human form of life is an opportunity to promote oneself to a better life. This is explained in the Bhagavad Gita in the 9th chapter, text 25. Yanti deva vrata devan pitrin yanti prajavataka bhutani yanti bhuteja yanti manyashino pimam. Those who worship the demigods will take birth among the demigods. Those who worship ghosts and spirits will take birth among such beings. Those who worship ancestors go to the ancestors. And those who worship me will live with me. Therefore, one may promote himself to the higher planetary systems, which are the residence of the demigods. One can promote himself to Pitriloka. One can remain on earth, or one can also go back home, back to Godhead. This is further confirmed elsewhere in the Bhagavad Gita, in the 4th chapter, text 9. Tyaktva deham punar janma naiti mam eti sorjana. After giving up the body, one who knows Krishna in truth does not come back again to this world to accept a material body, but he goes back home, back to Godhead. This knowledge is in the Shastras, and people should be given the opportunity to understand it. Even if one is not able to go back to Godhead in one life, the Vedic civilization at least gives one the opportunity to be promoted to the higher planetary systems where the demigods live and not glide down again to animal life. At present, people do not understand this knowledge, although it constitutes a great science, for they are uneducated and trained not to accept it. This is the horrible condition of modern human society. As such, the Krishna consciousness movement is the only hope to direct the attention of intelligent men to a greater benefit in life. So, text 44. Mali manusya maranahi rajadana palapula diya kari punya uparjana. I am merely a gardener. I have neither a kingdom nor very great riches. I simply have some fruits and flowers that I wish to utilize to achieve piety in my life. That's Lord Caitanya speaking. Purport. In performing welfare activities for human society, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu presents himself as being not very rich, thus indicating that a man need not be rich or opulent to act for the welfare of humanity. Sometimes rich men are very proud that they can perform beneficial activities for human society, whereas others cannot. A practical example is that when there is a scarcity of food in India on account of meager rainfall, some members of the richer class very proudly distribute foodstuffs, making huge arrangements with the help of the government, as if merely by such activities people will be benefited. Suppose there were no food grain. How would the rich men distribute food? Production of grain is completely in the hands of God. If there were no rain, there would be no grain. And these so-called rich men would be unable to distribute grain to the people. The real purpose of life, therefore, is to satisfy the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Srila Rupa Goswami describes in his Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu that devotional service is so exalted that it is beneficial and auspicious for every man. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has also declared that to propagate the bhakti cult of devotional service in human society, one does not need to be very rich. Anyone who knows the art can do it, and thus render the highest benefit to humanity. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu takes the part of a gardener because although a gardener is naturally not a very rich man, he has some fruits and flowers. Any man can collect some fruits and flowers and satisfy the Supreme Personality of Godhead in devotional service, as the Lord recommends in the Bhagavad Gita, 9th chapter, text 26. Patram pushpam phalam toyam yome bhaktya prayachyati tadaham bhaktuparitam ashnami prayatatmanaha. One cannot satisfy the Supreme Lord by his riches, wealth, or opulent position, but anyone can collect a little fruit or a flower. Whoops, got more people. Should I wear a mask? Maybe I should wear a mask if we have more people. Just set a good example. Okay, we will wear a mask. Okay, so anybody, when Krishna eats, the entire world becomes satisfied. There's a story in the Mahabharata illustrating how by Krishna's eating, the 60,000 disciples of Durvasa Muni were all satisfied. Therefore, it is a fact that if by our life, pranahai, or by our wealth, artahai, by our intelligence, diya, or by the words, vacha, we can satisfy the Supreme Personality of God, and naturally the entire world will become happy. Therefore, our main duty is to satisfy the Supreme Godhead by our actions, our money, and our words. This is very simple. Even if one does not have money, he can preach the Hare Krishna mantra to everyone. One can go everywhere, to every home, and request everyone to chant the Hare Krishna mantra. Thus, the entire world situation will become very happy and peaceful. I guess I should tell the story about Durvasa Muni, since that was there in the purport. So here's the story about Durvasa Muni and all of his disciples. Quite a few disciples, 10,000 disciples, 60,000, sorry. That's a lot. It's more than I have. So anyway, so he was traveling all over with 60,000 disciples. And we all know that Durvasa Muni has a temper. That's why he's called Durvas. Durvas can sometimes mean face, Dur means bad. So it means someone with a temper. Durvas. So actually there's many stories about Durvasa Muni getting angry or getting pleased. He's Ashutosh, like Lord Shiva, because he's an expansion of Lord Shiva. I mean, he was so pleased with Kunti Devi that he gave her, because she served him day and night without stopping, that he gave her the mantra that she could call for any demigod. So he's easily displeased also. So Duryodhana, that's the enemy of the Pandavas, he had this plan while the Pandavas were actually in exile to destroy the Pandavas, to get Durvasa Muni and his 10,000 or 60,000 disciples angry with them. And the Pandavas, they were living very nicely, and they were able to feed 60,000 disciples without any trouble, if Draupadi had not eaten, because they had been given that pot by the sun god, actually, that this pot could provide unlimited food until Draupadi herself ate. So the way she would usually do things, she would feed everybody else, and then she would eat after everybody else was finished. And that way they could serve the sages, whoever came, 10,000, 10 million, 60,000, 100 million, it didn't really matter. They could feed unlimited sages. But Duryodhana said to Durvasa Muni, he said, my dear Durvasa Muni, I want my brothers, my cousin brothers, to be blessed by you. I want you to go to see them at a particular time. Now, he knew that time was after Draupadi had eaten. So Durvasa Muni and his 60,000 disciples, they come to the Pandavas right after Draupadi had eaten. And Durvasa Muni was hungry, and his disciples were hungry too. And so the Pandavas, they didn't know what to do. So basically, they told Durvasa Muni, please sit down, say your Gayatri mantras, go for a swim, not just a swim, snan. It's not that they were at the beach. But, bathe yourself in the river, and then we'll serve you prasadam. In the meantime, they're going, oh my God, what are we going to do? We do not know what to do. We're going to be cursed by Durvasa Muni. Our whole exile is going to be useless. Our lives are going to be useless. We're going to be destroyed. So they were very, very disturbed, anxiety, distress, etc. So when in distress, what do? Call 911. And so their method of calling 911, or Draupadi's method of calling 911 is what? Krishna. Just like when there was the attempted disrobing, what did she do? She called 911. Krishna. Krishna, Krishna. And Krishna provided unlimited sorry. So in this particular case, she called for Krishna. She said, Krishna, Govinda, what am I going to do? And guess what? All of a sudden, Krishna shows up. And Krishna says, I'd like something to eat. And she's thinking, we didn't get a chance to feed Durvasa Muni, and now I'm not getting a chance to feed Krishna, so double offense. And she says, Krishna, there's nothing left in the pot. And Krishna said, let me see the pot. So Krishna takes the pot, and he sees 1 grain of rice left in the pot. And he takes that 1 grain of rice, pops it in his mouth. Meantime, Durvasa Muni and his disciples, 60,000 disciples, are taking their bath. And while they're taking their bath, their stomachs become distended. And they start to burp. And they're feeling, oh my God, I have no hunger. And I'm sure that Draupadi has prepared some very nice food for us. And Durvasa Muni is thinking, oh, if we go there and we don't partake of the food, we will be committing a great offense. Because he's remembering his interactions with Ambarish, Maharaj Ambarish, where he was chased by Krishna's Sudarshan Chakra all over the material and spiritual creations. And so he's thinking, no more offending Vaishnavas for me. I'm finished with that. So he and his 60,000 disciples run away. And then the Pandavas lived happily ever after. So that's a story. So Krishna is pleased. Of course, there's other stories too where Krishna is just pleased with a leaf. There's the story of the Govardhan Puja Anukut ceremony, where they were offering to Krishna, in the form of Govardhan Hill, the gigantic form, they were offering him practically unlimited foodstuffs. And Krishna finished it all, and he said, what? I am hungry. Anyor, Anyor. I want more, I want more. And they couldn't figure out what to do. They thought Krishna was really going to just kill them or something. And they give Krishna a tulsi leaf, and he was satisfied. So the whole point is, Yome Bhakta Prayachati, that one should offer with love and devotion. It's not a question of what you offer. Of course, one should offer the best that they have. I remember in San Francisco, Prabhupada made that point when they installed Lord Jagannath. And the devotees, they thought, well, the best we have is our blue jeans. You know, blue jeans, dungarees. And they offered the blue jeans and dungarees to the deities. So, but Krishna accepted because that was the best that they had, you know. What can you do? I mean, just like the story that is mentioned in the Shastras, he said, not about Krishna, but he says, once there was a man who was in love, actually had several wives, and he was so much in love with one particular wife that he gave her a garland that had mud on it. But because he was doing it out of love, he didn't even notice it, that he gave her the garland. Like that, and she loved it, because it was offered with love. Another story, actually, it's a story of Krishna's pastimes. One of the gopis said to Radha, this is the opposite, but Krishna couldn't love you so much because he's painting all these figures on your body and his hand is steady. Because if he was attracted to you, you know, like that. Anyway, whatever. That's a good Valentine's Day story. So let's go on with the Caitanya Charitamrta. Malihanya vriksha hailan eta ikchate sarva pranira upakarya hoy vriksha haite. Although I am acting as a gardener, I also want to be the tree, for thus I can bestow benefit upon all. Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu is the most benevolent personality in human society because his only desire is to make people happy. I'll read that again. Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu is the most benevolent personality in human society because his only desire is to make people happy. Isn't that amazing? His only desire is to make people happy. Wow. That should be like our motto. Like one time we were talking about a vision for the Hare Krishna movement, and the proposal was more devotees, happier devotees. So his only desire is to make people happy. And actually, Prabhupada said that in an instruction to a temple president. He said, your business is to make sure that everyone's jolly and eating enough prasadam. His Sankirtan movement is especially meant for the purpose of making people happy. Like Prabhupada would say, take hippies and make them happies. He wanted to become the tree himself because a tree is said to be the most benevolent living entity. In the following verse, which is from Srimad Bhagavatam 10:22-33, Krishna himself praises the existence of a tree because the tree just stands there and tolerates things and renders all service to people. Ahoe Shambharam Janma Sarva Pranyupa Jivanam Sujana Sheva Yesham Vai Vimukha Yanti Nartanaha. Just see how these trees are maintaining every living entity. Their birth is successful. Their behavior is just like that of great personalities. For anyone who asks anything from a tree never goes away disappointed. In other words, the tree is standing there, tolerating so many things and giving people benedictions in the form of fruits, shade, etc. According to Vedic civilization, Kshatriyas are considered to be great personalities because if anyone goes to a Kshatriya king to ask for charity, the king will never refuse. The trees are compared to those noble Kshatriyas because everyone derives all kinds of benefits from them. Some people take fruit, others take flowers, others take leaves, others take twigs, and others even cut the tree. And yet the tree gives to everyone without hesitation. Unnecessarily cutting trees without consideration is another example of human debauchery. The paper industry cuts many hundreds and thousands of trees for its mills. Actually, it's hundreds of millions, really. And with the paper, so much rubbish literature is published for the whimsical satisfaction of human society. Unfortunately, although these industrialists are now happy in their life, by dint of their industrial development, they do not know that they will incur the responsibility for killing these living entities or in the form of trees. This verse quoted from the Srimad Bhagavatam was spoken by Lord Krishna to his friends when he was taking rest under a tree after his pastime of stealing the clothes of the gopis. That's the Vastraharana Lila, means stealing the clothes, Lila. By quoting this verse, Caitanya Mahaprabhu teaches us that we should be tolerant like trees and also beneficial like trees, which give everything to the needy persons who come underneath them. A needy person may derive many advantages from trees and also from many animals. But in modern civilization, people have become so ungrateful that they exploit the trees and animals and kill them. These are some of the sinful activities of modern civilization. What to speak of, killing animals wholesale. So, Egya Koila Yadi Caitanya Malakara Paramananda Paila Vriksha Parivara. The descendants of the tree, the devotees of Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu, were very glad to receive this order directly from the Lord. That's us. We're the descendants of the Lord Chaitanya tree. It is the desire of Lord Caitanya Mahaprabhu that the benevolent activities of the Sankirtan movement, which was inaugurated 500 years ago in Navadvip, be spread all over the world for the benefit of all human beings. Unfortunately, there are many so-called followers of Caitanya Mahaprabhu who are satisfied simply to construct a temple, make a show of the deities, collect some funds, and utilize them for eating and sleeping. And actually, Prabhupada gave the example, quoting from his spiritual master, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he said it's like taking a shell of ground shila to crack nuts with. Prabhupada was very heavy, and so was Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur. Actually, there was that story when I was with Prabhupada one time. We were in Prabhupada's room, and devotees came back after visiting one of these temples that Prabhupada is talking about. And the devotees said, well, we went to this temple. They were on traveling Sankirtan party. And we went to this temple, and they just didn't receive us nicely, but we went and saw the deity. And Prabhupada said, he said, there was no deity there. And the devotees, they didn't argue with Prabhupada, but they thought, well, maybe Prabhupada didn't hear what we said. They said, no, we saw the deity, Prabhupada. And Prabhupada said, you heard what I said. There was no deity there. And all of us were going, oh my God, what's happening here? Because Prabhupada was extremely heavy. And he said, just like my godbrother said, they're using a shalagram shila to crack nuts with. And then we understood what Prabhupada was saying, that Krishna can leave. Krishna can come, Krishna can leave, he's independent, he's Swarat. So there's no question of their preaching the cult of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu all over the world. But even though they were unable to do so, if anyone else does it, they become envious. I mean, it's obvious who Prabhupada is referring to. Because when Prabhupada tried to establish the Mayapur project, they tried to stop him from purchasing land in Mayapur. I mean, this envy is a quality of a conditioned soul. I mean, many godbrothers actually were supportive of Prabhupada. But as I mentioned, I think I mentioned yesterday or the day before, that some of the godbrothers interfered with Prabhupada's plan to build a temple in New York by stopping or not facilitating the transfer of money from India. Because Prabhupada had a donor lined up to pay for a temple in New York City. And there was some currency restriction. And this particular godbrother of his had some connections where he could actually deal with the currency restriction. And yet, he didn't do it. And we would have had a temple in New York before that, had this godbrother cooperated. This is the condition of the modern followers of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. The age of Kali is so strong that it affects even the so-called followers of Lord Chaitanya. At least the followers of Lord Chaitanya must come out of India to preach his cult all over the world, for this is the mission of Lord Chaitanya. The followers of Lord Chaitanya must execute his will with heart and soul, being more tolerant than the trees and humbler than the straw in the street. Wow. I was also thinking about this, that, hopefully I don't get political. But anyway, I always say that before I get political. But anyways, so I was also thinking about this, that there's some people in India who want to impose like the Indian standard of culture or whatever like that on the West, not understanding that you have to adjust, just like we're preaching very successfully in China, and the devotees have actually adjusted the principles, not changed the principles, but adjusted the details in presenting Krishna consciousness there. I mean, the Chinese devotees dress up in Chinese clothes. You've seen pictures of the devotees. And they eat their prasadam with chopsticks. Can you imagine that? So when, sometimes we get the people really fanatics say, chopsticks, that's Maya. How can they do that? You're supposed to use your hand. You got some people really fixated on rituals like that. And so the devotees would never be able to preach in China if they'd done it. And they also use Chinese music to accompany plays about Krishna. I've seen some of the videos of this. They're quite interesting. So that's the will of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. that somehow or other distribute this Krishna consciousness everywhere. Utility is the principle. Books are the base. Utility is the principle. Purity is the force. Right? So this is really important when dealing with different cultures. Just like myself, when I am preaching or dealing with people from different cultures, I preach in a different way. Because I know how to present Krishna consciousness according to time, place, and circumstance. So anyway, Prabhupada makes this point. Previously, the Caitanya Charitamrta, Prabhupada made that point very, very clearly in the Adi Lila. So, Yeham Tahan Danakari Prema Pala Palasvade Mata Loka Hoila Sakala. The fruit of love of God is so delicious that wherever a devotee distributes it, those who relish the fruit anywhere in the world immediately become what? Intoxicated. Here, the wonderful fruit of love of God distributed by Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is described. We have practical experience that anyone who accepts this fruit and sincerely tastes it immediately becomes mad after it. He gives up all of his bad habits, being intoxicated by Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's gift, the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. The statements of Sri Caitanya Charitamrta are so practical that anyone can test them. As far as we are concerned, we are most confident of the success of the distribution of the great fruit of love of Godhead through the medium of chanting the Mahamantra. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Mahamadaka Prema Pala, Paitavari Kaya. Matila Sakala Loka Hasenache Gaya. The fruit of love of Godhead distributed by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is such a great intoxicant that anyone who eats it, filling his belly, immediately becomes maddened by it. And automatically he chants, dances, laughs, and enjoys. Keha Gada Gadi. That means like choked up voice. Gada Gada. And also, here it translates as rolling on the floor, but actually it's gada gada. It means being choked up, and you can add rolling on the floor because it's onomatopoetic. Yaya keha tahunkara deki anandita hara hase malakara. When Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the great gardener, sees that people are chanting, dancing, and laughing, and some of them are rolling on the floor, and some are making loud humming sounds, he smiles with great pleasure. So if Lord Chaitanya sees someone dancing Bharatanatyam in the temple, he's also happy. Because that's a little bit more conservative than rolling on the ground and making loud humming songs. Can you imagine if we had on the internet, in the morning and the devotees were rolling on the ground, home, home, that's the humming song. How much trouble I'd get in? How much criticism I have. But it says he smiles with great pleasure. So Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he's not confined to a certain type of dancing as long as it's chaste, He likes ecstatic dancing. Someone just goes wild. So why should we just confine devotees to a certain type of dance? Obviously, we don't want ballet in the temple room, but, but you can turn that off because it's warm enough. It says that Lord Chaitanya, we got to save this verse. Because sometimes we get some criticism that, someone's doing Bharatanatyam at the back of the temple room, doing Mangalarti, doing the mudras to actually echo what's being said in the song. It's actually very beautiful. So we get criticism about that. But actually, if we follow the Caitanya Charitamrta, we'd have to roll on the floor and make loud humming sounds. And I don't think we could get away with it. So this attitude of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is very important for persons engaged in the Hare Krishna movement of Krishna consciousness. In every center of our institution, ISKCON, we have arranged for a love feast. Now that's every Sunday. So that's very 1960s. Nowadays, if you say there's a love feast, people may get the wrong idea. especially on Valentine's Day. So, and Prabhupada actually talked about how in certain countries, like Africa, in certain civilizations, they would take their grandfathers, they'd kill their grandfathers and throw them off the roof. And because they couldn't do anything anymore, and they'd have a love feast eating the body. But this word love feast is very 60-ish. But you can see how Prabhupada's using language is very much in tune. Because now we just say a Sunday program, a Sunday feast. I don't think we advertise a love feast so much. So, Sunday feast. Sunday feast or program or prasadam or whatever like that. Kirtan. Every Sunday. And when we actually see people come to our center, chant, dance, take prasadam, become jubilant and purchase books, we know that certainly Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is always present in such transcendental activities. And he is pleased and satisfied. Therefore, the members of ISKCON must increase this movement more and more according to the principles that we are presently trying to execute. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, thus being pleased, will smilingly glance upon them, bestowing his favor, and the movement will be successful. So here we find justified what we're doing. Let's see. Okay, time for another verse or two. Emala karakaya he prima pala niravadi mata rahe vishvasya vivala. The great gardener, Lord Chaitanya, personally eats this fruit, and as a result, he constantly remains mad, as if helpless and bewildered. It is the mission of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to act himself and teach the people. He says, Apani achari bhakti koila prachara. It's from the Caitanya Caritamrta, Adi Lila, 4th chapter, text 41. One must first act himself and then teach. This is the function of a real teacher. Unless one is able to understand the philosophy that he speaks, it will not be effective. Therefore, one should not only understand the philosophy of the Chaitanya cult, but also implement it practically in one's life. While chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu sometimes fainted and remained unconscious for many hours. He prays in his Shikshashtaka 7. Yugayitam nimishena chakshusha parvishayitam shunyayitam jagat sarvam govinda vidahename. O Govinda, feeling your separation, I am considering a moment to be like 12 years or more. Tears are flowing from my eyes like torrents of rain, and I am feeling all vacant in the world in your absence. This is the perfectional stage of chanting the Hare Krishna mantra and eating the fruit of love of Godhead as exhibited by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. One should not artificially imitate this stage, but if one is serious and sincerely follows the regulative principles and chants the Hare Krishna mantra, the time will come when these symptoms will appear. Tears will fill the eyes. He will be unable to chant the Maha Mantra distinctly, and his heart will throb in ecstasy. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says that one should not imitate this, but a devotee should long for the day to come when such symptoms of trance will automatically appear in his body. So, Kabhi Habi, Bolo Se Dinamar, Aparada Guche, Arinama Ruche. When will that day come when I've given up my offenses and I have a taste for the chanting? Kabhi Habe, Bolo Se Dinamar. When will that day come? The devotees hang, oh, Gauranga Balite Habi Pulaka Sharir. When I chant the name of Gauranga, I will feel quivering in my body. Tears will come from my eyes like torrents of rain. When will it? We should hanker for that particular day. All right. So we should end here, and we will unmute everybody. We will even unmute the people here. That's pretty good. If I can unmute everybody in a second. Whoops. Stop share. We are in the temple room. All right. Oops. Okay. You in the audience are allowed to unmute yourselves now. So is anyone here or there? Adityanarayan Prabhu? Yeah.
Like normally, like especially the last sentence when Prabhupada says one should long.
Right.
But isn't like a devotee longing more of like, I just want to serve. I just want to see.
You can't disconnect the two. The two are very much connected. The symptoms of ecstasy are due to love. They're not due to just like, sometimes we picture symptoms of ecstasy just like separated from Krishna consciousness. Like, sometimes we shake in ecstasy just because we got a new car or something like that. But the symptom of ecstasy is a symptom of love. So really to hanker for that is exactly the same as, the symptom. When will I love Krishna so much that this happens and that happens? They're not simply asking to shiver in ecstasy. I mean, you can arrange that without loving Krishna. Just give me $1 billion and I'll probably shiver in ecstasy. But it's just a symptom. It's just like, when will someone faint when they see their wife or girlfriend or something? They're connected. You can't disconnect the symptom from the symptom. Of course, is secondary. Like you have mukhya and gona, so it's a secondary manifestation, but it's an indication. It's indicative that the primary is there. So that's a good question. Yeah, you're longing for love because part of love is the symptoms of ecstasy. They're not, when the devotee is hankering for it, they're not hankering for the symptoms of ecstasy without love. When will I cry when I hear the Star-Spangled Banner or something like that? Or, American, anyway, whatever it is. Yes, it's all one. It's all connected. When will I love Krishna? In other words, when will I love Krishna so much that I will shiver when I hear his name? That's it. That's really unpacking that statement. Because the loyum is actually for love. So when will love be so manifest that will be a symptom of my love, that I will love him so much? Okay, good question. Yeah.
And to that point, when we develop our love, it says Lord Caitanya will please, like when he sees the symptoms. So when we develop that,
yeah,
the Lord is naturally pleased because we are connected with him and we have that love.
Yeah, let me just translate that for everybody. Not translate. Hare, whoops. What I want this is a stone. Hare Krishna. Uh-oh. Let's see if the mic's working. Let me just turn on the other microphone. Looks like the mic. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Uh-oh. That's strange. I don't think it's on the other mic. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna. Give me a second. Always a little glitch here. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Yeah, it's working now. Oh, yes. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. All right, finish.
We can hear you, Guru Maharaj.
Okay, yeah, I just was getting the message here somehow or this. Not from any of you, but I was getting the message that from my machine. It goes a little slower when it's on battery power. I guess that's the problem. So, Adityanarayan was just asking about the symptoms of ecstasy, whether they're connected with love of God. And I said, yes, it's very much connected. You cannot separate the two. So, who else has a question? Anybody else here? Or
Hare Krishna, Gurudev.
yeah, Rishikesh.
Krishna, what's the difference between rasa and bhava?
Okay. Rasa is the taste of a particular relationship. Just like there's taste, rasa can also refer to the taste of a vegetable. what's the taste of sugar? Sweetness. So that's rasa. So the taste of a relationship with Krishna is the rasa. So the taste of conjugal relationship or friendship relationship, that's one thing. That's the taste you get from the relationship. The bhava is the symptom of ecstasy that you exhibit as a result of that taste. You understand? Like the Asta Sattvika bhava, Sanchari bhava, and of course, Vyabhachi bhava is the stimulation. Or the, let's see, the vibhava we already discussed, vaibhava or vibhava we already discussed. The anubhava is the one I loved at. The anubhava. And of course, staibhava refers to the constant ecstasy that one experiences according to the relationship. Does that answer the question, Rishikesh?
Yes, Gurudev. Is there a difference between Sanchari Bhava and Rasa? Is it the same thing?
No, it's different. Sanchari Bhava refers to the Vyabhachari Bhavas. There's 33 of them, intermittent, uncontrollable ecstasies. Intermittent means you can't predict when they're going to occur. And those are the really intense ones, like almost death, not real death, but like the appearance of someone basically being, like when Lord Caitanya Mahaprabhu entered the Jagannath temple for the first time, he fainted and everyone thought he was dead until Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya put a cotton swab in front of his nose and they could detect a little breathing. That's actually a Sanchariya or Vyabhachari Bhava, which are actually the same thing. It's actually the same thing. Okay?
Thank you, Gurudev.
Okay, who else has a question?
Gurudev,
Who else?
Mayapur has a question, and then I have a question after him.
Oh, Mayapur Chandra has a question. Okay. Can't hear you. You're on mute.
She had the question.
Okay.
I was wondering, when you were talking about the different symptoms of ecstasy and you were talking also about, the dancing in the temple, it reminded me of a Guru Kuli I had spoken with some years ago. And he had shared with me that for the longest time, every time he would chant his japa, he would go into these intense crying fits, and that it was extremely emotional for him. But as he got older and sort of, in his opinion, matured, he realized that what he was actually feeling was almost like trauma triggers in relation to chanting japa because of his experiences. And so I was wondering, like I almost, in my conversation with him, felt like there must have also, though, been some of those other emotions as well, that it couldn't have been entirely a trauma trigger, although I'm sure something like that was there, because he was in such an emotional state and he was, of course, chanting. So I was wondering maybe if you could share some light on that, or correct me, or just help understand that when we're having these different experiences that are not transcendental, there's a mix. What does that mean or look like?
Well, according to Rupa Goswami in the Nectar of Devotion, one of the first things that happens when you take up Krishna consciousness is immediate relief from all the stress. And when you are relieved from all the stress, or at least partial relief from all the stress, depending upon your level of advancement, then underlying emotions can come out, and some of them are mixed like that. Relief. So you actually feel shelter. I mean, many people, when they come to Krishna consciousness and chant Krishna's names, feel so much shelter. It's just like they're ready to reveal their minds to Krishna, or ready to confront their past. I remember, of course, I didn't have those ecstatic symptoms like you were talking about, but I remember when I first came to Krishna consciousness, I was so relieved to understand and experience that Krishna, my best friend, could always be with me. As Krishna says in the Gita, Bhoktaram Jagatapisam Sarva Loka Maheshwaram Suridam Sarvabhutanam Gyatva Mam Shantim Richati. you know, that actually Krishna's your well-wisher. He's in your heart. He's always with you. You chant his holy names and he's accompanying you. So to me, it was like, wow, what a relief. And of course, I didn't have any trauma other than being spanked by my mother a few times. You know, I can't really complain about it. Or having my mouth washed out with soap by my mother because I used some 4-letter words. But that's about the only trauma I had in life. But I did feel relief. And that's just like if one goes to a therapist and you're sitting down, you're in a comfortable situation, you're trusting the therapist, then you're going to start talking about different trauma you had. And so I think a similar thing may occur. And that's a symptom, at least partially, of Krishna conscious ecstasy, immediate relief from all distress. You know, second one is the beginning of his auspiciousness. I mean, that's pretty ecstatic. And I think most devotees experience that in the beginning from the chanting, immediate relief from all distress, because you understand the purpose of life. You understand that Krishna is your best friend, Krishna is taking care of you, and then your whole life has become auspicious. Previously, how could one say that their whole life or any part of their life is auspicious because everything was going to end and it's going to be useless anyway? And that's really what disturbed me. I said to my mother, I always use her as an example, I said, what's the use of this life? I'm going to die if I accomplish anything. And she said, you'll live on the good deeds that you do. I said, well, that's not good enough. I don't want to live on the good deeds. I want to live on. And so, you know, my life really, and I don't think anyone's life has meaning until they can actually dedicate it to helping others and understand the purpose of life. I don't think there's anything. I wasn't depressed, but I was just, you know, on the way to becoming an existentialist. You know what existentialist is? Basically, you know, you make your own meaning out of life, like Sartre. You know, that's, you know, it's on my way. You know, what's the meaning? Does life have no meaning? If life has no meaning, then why should I progress in life? Why should I become a doctor like my mother wanted me to become a doctor? Why not just drive a taxi for the rest of my life? That's what happened. When I stopped going to school, I didn't want to do anything else because I didn't know the meaning of life. So I just put my life on hold by driving a taxi. And it's interesting, some of the other taxi drivers that were driving the taxis along with me, they actually had the same mood. And that's where I got my first Krishna book, from one of the taxi drivers. And they were all educated. We used to sit with the taxi drivers, you know, of course, I don't know if the taxi drivers are like that, or Uber drivers now are like that. But we used to sit with the taxi drivers discussing philosophy. And you would never think, like, I discussed more philosophy with the taxi drivers than I did at the university. Because here were people that just didn't, they were intelligent, they just didn't feel enthusiastic about material pursuits, that's all. Because there was no impetus, there was no reason. So really, anyway, so it was a relief. I did feel that sort of ecstasy. I did not cry, except when there wasn't enough prasadam. That's another issue. But I did not cry or anything like that. And I'm not saying that I exhibit symptoms of ecstasy. But I can understand that if someone was traumatized before, that it would be a big relief, so much relief they would cry, because here is someone, Krishna, you can trust, and Prabhupada. I mean, I knew I could trust Prabhupada implicitly, because Prabhupada was not interested in what I could do for him, but he was interested in my welfare, you know, a completely causeless, loving way. So I would say that, yes, what you're saying is true. It's spiritual, you know, with a touch of material relief, but, you know, that's completely understandable. Good question. And so one more question from Rakesh, and then we have to end.
Thank you, Guru Maharaj.
Rakesh,
My
your
question, yes, Guru Maharaj. My question is, what is the location of Atma in the body? Or is there any location?
In the heart. Yes, in the heart.
In the heart, one person says when we do the heart transplant, Atma doesn't get transferred.
No, you change seats. Did you ever, of course, you probably never did this, but when we were, oh my God, I hate to admit this. We had this game called musical chairs when we were young. Pretty stupid game. Anyway, they play a song and we'd circumambulate the chairs. And when the song came to an end, we'd sit down on the chair and each time they took a chair away. So one less person or two less persons had a chair. Did you ever play that in India? Really? It's a transcultural game. I mean, pretty cool. So in other words, we changed the chair. So when they transplant the heart, it's just that the soul is standing up for a second, probably. And then you sit down. He's located in the region of the heart. When we say that the soul's presence is manifest in the heart, it doesn't mean that if you open up the heart, you're going to see the soul swimming in the blood there. His soul, his presence is manifest in the heart. Like he's plugged in there. Just like you plug I have a computer. I can plug my camera in this computer or another computer, or anyway, use this computer or another computer. I don't become a different person when I use a different computer. So the soul's presence is in the heart, but it's not material. The soul can never become materially situated because the soul is transcendental. That's an important point. Let's check something. Okay, I think we have to end now. Thank you very much for attending our virtual Sunday love feast. And we want to wish everybody a happy Valentine's Day. So we're going to offer a Valentine to Krishna and ask Krishna to be my Valentine. Okay, thank you very much. All glories to his divine grace. A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Right.